everyone, my name is Caitlin and welcome back to my channel. So Zombies 2 premiered on Valentine's Day this year, and as some of you know, I have sort of an odd relationship with the first movie. Like, I love it, but generally speaking, I don't think it's a very good movie. And so I was a little bit cautious going into this movie because I didn't want to get my hopes up like last time and be disappointed, but I gotta say, I really enjoyed this movie, and so I'm really excited to talk about it. And so just like always, I'm gonna do a non-spoiler section first, and then we'll jump in to do a full spoiler section and talk all things Zombies 2, and I'm really excited, so let's just jump right into it. So Zombies 2 picks up a little while after the events of the first movie. Prawn is coming up, which is like Seabrook's version of prom, and so all of the kids are getting excited for the big night when unexpectedly this group of werewolves arrives and starts like shaking up the scene. And yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. It was a really different feel in comparison to the first movie. Like the first movie, they had much more of a focus on like high school problems. Like obviously zombies were involved, but still in the first movie, all the main plot points were like football, cheerleading, and then Zed and Addison's like high school relationship. Whereas this movie took much more of a supernatural route. There's still some high school themes in there with like Zed and Addison's relationship still being a focus, and then there was a presidential election as well, and then obviously Prawn is really high school, but the main focus of the second movie really was the werewolves. Not that that's a bad thing, I just think it made for a little bit of a disconnect like in comparison to the two movies. I also felt like the end of the movie was a bit abrupt, which made the movie overall feel a lot shorter than it actually was. Like I just remember finishing the movie and feeling a little bit confused as to what I had just watched. Like I felt like a few conclusions weren't wrapped up in the best way. This could have been because the pacing of the movie was so fast, which sometimes is a little bit overwhelming, but overall it made it really entertaining. And so yeah, I really enjoyed it. The music was great, and I felt like the story was really good. And so I would say if you're a fan of zombies, or even if you're not a fan at all and you're just interested, I would say to give it a chance because yeah, I thought it was a really fun time. And so with all that being said, let's move on to the spoiler section. So first I want to talk a little bit more about what I brought up in the non-spoiler section, and that was the focus of the movie, because obviously the main plot point was the werewolves and the stone. I felt like that one was done really well. What fell short for me was the ones on the side with Zed and Addison's relationship, and then the whole presidential campaign specifically. Especially because of how they wrapped up the whole presidential campaign storyline, it just felt so abrupt to have Zed just be like, well, I lost, and Eliza being like, yep, I guess so. Like I would have liked some sort of like final voting scene or some sort of like announcement as to like who won. Like I know we did get the scene in the beginning with Zed and Addison talking about how like either way they win, and then they did have that little moment where Bucky gives Addison his jacket, but it still just felt incomplete to me, and then it kind of made the whole plot line overall just kind of seem a little bit pointless. But I will say that I did really like the presidential plot line overall because it really brought the movie's focus back to high school problems in a movie that had problems that were so much bigger than high school. But speaking of problems that are bigger than high school, let's move on to one of those, like the Z-bands. I was really happy that they addressed the whole Z-band situation. Like I've always kind of found the racial undertones in zombies to be a little bit problematic. Just the whole idea of like relating a minority group to these quote-unquote brain-eating monsters just doesn't seem like the best analogy to make in my opinion. And so you add on that Z-band aspect, which basically forces zombies to conform to being human to the point where they're just humans in a zombie shell, removing all aspects of their like true nature. And so I was really happy to see them actually address that in this film, and I really wasn't expecting them to. My only complaint is that I feel like that storyline wasn't really wrapped up in the best way. Like I would have loved to see them completely abandon their Z-bands altogether by the end of the movie, but I understand that that might have been too big of a jump, and so maybe if we do get a third movie, they could do that in the third movie, and then I'd be happy. I also couldn't talk about the Z-bands without also mentioning that scene where Bucky tells Zed that he knows he's not going to hurt him when Zed's going like full zombie. I just felt like that was so well done that it gave me chills. On the other hand, something that I felt like was not done well at all was the whole monster law situation, which first of all, Addison was very quick to say that what she saw in the woods were werewolves, when like I understand that they live in this whole town where like zombies exist, and so it wouldn't be that far out there, but you just previously had a scene with Bucky saying that there's no way these things exist, and then for Addison to immediately be like, I saw werewolves, when it's like they weren't even wolves, they were just kids running around, so like who knows what you actually saw. And the fact that the whole town believes her claims without any proof whatsoever was also just super unrealistic to me. And then they decided to put these monster laws in place and decide not to explain to the audience what they were whatsoever. Like my understanding of these laws was that they're in place to segregate the monsters from the humans, but then the zombies are still at school, and then the werewolves come and they immediately allow them in school as well. And so then it seems like the only reason why these laws are in place is so that the monsters can't go to Prawn, which motivates Zed to run for president, which makes sense as far as the movie's plotline is concerned, but then you look at the grand scheme of things and it just makes the monster laws seem really dumb. But let's move on to the werewolves because I absolutely loved them in this film, and I thought they were a great addition to the zombies universe. I loved how they were like the complete opposite from the zombies, and yet they were still able to connect their two storylines because of their origins. Like the fact that the zombies exist literally because of the werewolves, I just think was such a great way of tying the two stories together. I do feel like they could have explained the whole necklace situation a bit better though, because at one point you have Willa saying that if they don't have them, they'll die. But then when we meet Wyatt for the first time, he's not wearing his necklace. Then there was numerous times in the movie where a werewolf would like take their necklace off, and I would be like concerned for them that they were gonna die. And then there was the fact that everyone thought that Addison was the great alpha, even though she hasn't been wearing a necklace this whole time, so like why would they assume that she's a werewolf? I just feel like it was a little bit vague, and I would have liked a little bit more explanation into the necklaces, but that's a little bit nitpicky and I honestly don't really care that much. And then the last thing I want to talk about in this section was the protest, because I loved it. I thought it was so well done. I thought the song was amazing. It was just so much more of an impactful scene than the protest in the first movie, because we actually got to see the change happening. I think my only complaint would be that it was really unclear as to how Addison was able to gather everybody up so quickly, but I'll let it slide because it really made for an amazing scene. So we'll start off with Addison, because she went through a lot in this film and I absolutely loved it. And I feel like some people might not agree with me on this, but I actually really liked that they didn't make her a werewolf. I felt like it was something we were all expecting, and so when it didn't happen, it made me really surprised, and I like being surprised. And then that moment where she turns around and is expecting to be a werewolf and then she isn't just broke my heart. I just thought it was so well done. I think the only complaint I would have with it is that because we don't get a concrete answer as to what Addison is, it was one of the main reasons why the movie felt incomplete. Then there's also the fact that it was one of the main questions we all had going into the movie, and so to not get a concrete answer to that kind of sucks. Okay, but before we move on to the next character, I do have a little bit of a theory. Okay, we ready? Yeah. So everyone thinks that Addison is an alien, right? But that would be like the most obvious answer. So like maybe she's not an alien.
And I hope not.
And so like what else could she be? Maybe a time traveler?
Maybe.
Okay, hear me out, okay? So she's like the most forward-thinking character, right? And she's always been really progressive. Maybe it's because she's from the future, she didn't even know it. Also, no, I have more. Also, what was the other thing that was glowing in her room when the comet comes down?
Her hair?
Her hair, but also her clock. Her clock is freaking out. Why? Technology, future. Addison's a time traveler.
What? She doesn't know?
No, maybe she's like, maybe like her brain was like erased or something when she like was traveling back in time or something. And then maybe in the future, like the technology is so advanced and stuff that like everything's radioactive, and so it made her hair like react, and so people in the future like don't have like normal hair. That's why you can't dye it or anything.
Right, so what's the comet?
Maybe like a time traveling ship coming in. Or maybe the comet is like something from the future, and it's like she's not supposed to be in this time zone, and so like I don't know, I don't do theories.
Honestly, I'm down, because like her being an alien, not with it.
You're not with the alien plotline? No. And I feel like everyone's thinking she's an alien, so maybe she's not. But I'm not good at theories. This is why I don't do theories. But let's move on to Zed, because I've been seeing some hate for him online, which I've kind of been surprised by, because for me, I really didn't see much change in his character between the last movie and this movie. Like, when you think about it, Eliza was always the character that was pushing for change because there needed to be change, whereas Zed was only ever pushing for change when it was for his own personal gain. Like, in the first movie, for him to join the football team, and then this movie, for him to go to prom with Addison. Like, there really wasn't much change there. Honestly, Eliza should have ran for president, because she's the one who actually cared about real change and just would have made such a better president than Zed. Or Bucky, to be honest, because she's just the best. And then I don't really have much else to say about any of the other characters. I was happy that the coach was still in it, because he was like one of the best characters in the first movie. Then I also felt like Baby Ariel's character didn't really have much of a role in the movie. She was just kind of there. And I gotta say, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get any sort of explanation as to like where Tracy went. Like, I'm happy that they acknowledged she was being replaced, but it wouldn't have been hard to like throw in a line about him moving away or something, because now I just assume that he's dead, and like that doesn't need to be the case. They could have just explained it better. So I didn't really care much for Zed and Addison throughout this movie. Like, they had some cute moments, but overall, I was Team Wyatt. You know, Zed and Addison kept fighting, and Wyatt was just there being super cute, and so I was like, pick him instead. Even though he really wasn't a part of the equation, like, they really made it seem like the movie was going to be more love triangle focused than it was, which made me a little bit disappointed, because, like, I was expecting a good love triangle, and then we didn't really get that, and so that kind of sucked. I also felt like their breakup song came way too early on in the movie. Like, they had one fight, and then they're already singing a song about it. I was like, calm down, you're being a bit overdramatic. But there were some aspects to their relationship that I really enjoyed throughout the movie. Like, the whole necklace plotline I thought was really well done. Like, the fact that Zed admitted to taking it in the first place when he really didn't have to, and the fact that Addison didn't even think to blame him for it, just shows how much they trust each other and that they genuinely have like good communication skills for like a high school relationship. I thought that was really cool to see. And then there really isn't much to say about any of the other ships. Like, I guess Bree and Bonzo were there, but I found them to be a bit boring. And then I guess Eliza and Wyatt were kind of hinted at. I guess we'd have to wait for a third movie to see where that goes. But honestly, I was just disappointed we didn't get more Eliza and Addison moments, because they're my favorite ship from Zombies, and I wish we would have gotten more cute scenes with them together. But overall, I did really like where Zed and Addison's story arc ended. I like that we got a someday reprise, and their kiss at the end was super cute. So I don't really have much to say about the music besides I loved it. I thought all of the songs were just as good, if not better, than the ones in the first movie. I think my favorite song is probably Call to the Wild, but I really like I'm Winning as well. And I was just happy there wasn't as many reprises this time around. Also, like the zombies do, gave me heavy chillin' like a villain vibes, but with a completely different message. I just thought it was so well done. And then of course Gotta Find Where I Belong really reminded me of Gotta Go My Own Way, but in the best way possible. I thought it was so adorable. Anyways guys, those are my thoughts on Zombies 2. I hope I conveyed well enough how much I enjoyed the movie, because I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really good, and I hope we get a third one. But I don't know what you guys thought about Zombies 2, so don't forget to let me know down below. I can't wait to hear all about it. My name is Caitlin. You can follow me everywhere at Kate Loves Disney. Don't forget to subscribe and turn that bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. But that's all I have to say for today. I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. My thumbnail should be like me howling, like, oh, oh.
Yes, I think I like that. Ah!
What?
Look, it's Addison. Okay, pick the hottest.
The hottest what?
Wyatt, Milo, Bonzo, Bucky.
Wyatt, Zed, Bucky, Bonzo.
Yeah.
I thought that you liked Bucky more.
Then who?
You put Bucky as number 1, I think, last time I asked you.
But I didn't include Wyatt.
Right, because you hadn't seen the movie yet.
Now I don't know. I'm confused. But we're filming a video here. Focus.
Right.